Hello there, sword friends. This is going to be a quick chat about this VA Practical Longsword. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie, and before I get into it, a couple things to know. One, I'm not affiliated with Valiant Armory in any way. Nobody's asking me to do this review. Second, I bought this sword with my own money, secondhand. As it is secondhand, well, basically, it may not be representative of what you would get if you were to buy one new, but alas, you cannot. As I mentioned, this is an oldie but a goodie, which means that pretty much your only option is secondhand. So if you happen to spot one, hopefully this gives you some insight. I had this in my possession. It was a practical sword and a popular sword of its day, so I thought, why not chat about it? Why not give some info in the thingy below in case you happen to have the opportunity to procure one yourself. The last bit I should note is that I'm not an expert in the way of historic European martial arts. These are a fascination for me, but I am far from an expert, so take what I say with a grain of salt or several. So on with the show. The first note is that this is a hex nut construction. This one's got a bit of a worn hex nut, but the pommel is affixed with a nut of sorts, and the tang has a thread on it, and it is secured that way, which gives you the option of customization, but does not give you the same level of security potentially that a peen would. So in any respect, that is not necessarily a bad thing. If you were to use this quite a bit and break a blade, you could use the same hilt components with a new blade. Vice versa, if the hilt was to wear out, you could replace that without having to, you know, I don't know, whatever you have to do to replace it. The point is, construction-wise, all in all, like, things are very, very tight. This is a peen construction, but despite the fact that it's been through multiple time zones and been hanging on a wall and in a closet and bounced around and been cut with me, it's still very, very tight. It still holds together really well. Nothing rattles. There is no loosey-goosiness. Everything about this thing is still in very good working order. If I talk about the pommel a little bit, basically all of this is very practical, as the name suggests. There's not a lot of frills, but it's elegant, simple enough. The pommel doesn't have any sharp edges. It doesn't bite my hand as I hold on to it. The handle is easy to index. I can clearly tell where it's supposed to, where the edge is, as it's got kind of an ovoid shape. The leather riser or leather kind of grip hasn't worn out. There's no flaps or anything that are coming undone. It's easy for me to get purchase on it with bare hands. I haven't tried it with gloves, but I'd imagine it wouldn't necessarily be too complicated there either. And overall, the grip is, I'm just surprised it's held together so well, and it looks pretty decent. The crossguard has a bit of rust and wear on it, and the hole here would be or the hole where the blade comes through is probably one complaint. It's not the worst, you know, it could be worse. This is all in all actually pretty decent, but as you look in there, there's more gap than there needs to be, and they could have done a better job on that. Though honestly, for a sword that is at its time, realistically, I think these retailed for somewhere around $200 to $400, and it's tough for me. They're discontinued, and I got into the fray of things with these when they were discontinued already, or when I wasn't paying attention. So I don't know how much these used to go for. I see some notes online that say they were $200, and I see some other stuff from people selling them for more. So I don't 100% know, but in any case, this is better than I see on many manufacturers right now, all in all. So I don't want to say it's bad. I'm just saying it could be more perfect. For the money that this was charging, as it wasn't a multiple $1,000 sword or anything, I don't honestly think that's bad. The blade has a satin finish, and I think this is emulating like a Type 12 style sword. It's a little loosey-goosey, and honestly, from the dynamic standpoint, it's not super comfortable. I'll talk about that in a minute, though. The basic gist is the blade has kind of a satin, kind of scotched bright kind of 600 grit-ish polish on it, and that it's shiny enough, but not terribly shiny. This one, who knows what's happened to it over the years, whether or not Mother's Mag has been applied to it or something that would augment the polish and make it a little brighter. The fuller terminations also kind of go off in slightly different ways. They're not quite symmetrical. The blade, though, doesn't have really bad flats. I mean, it wiggles and wobbles, but for the price point, it's not terrible. The edge is pretty clean and straight. It doesn't wander in places, and overall, it certainly does the job. I don't know if this tip is characteristic of a Type 12 style sword or not. It looks a little lame to me, but I don't know. Maybe it's the way it's supposed to be. Whatever. In any case, the sharpness, again, as this is several years old, it's gone through multiple owners. I can't really say how well it is in comparison to others, because it's had many years and many uses to degrade. But what I can say is I did cut with it. I'll show you that in a moment after I talk about dynamics, and it did actually reasonably well, despite you know, not necessarily having the sharpest edge. Dynamics though, I'll share the sword dynamics computer. This, honestly, the dynamics computer gives the impression that it's not a lively sword, and while I don't necessarily disagree, tip control for a blade this long isn't, it's a little, I feel a little disconnected from the tip. It seems a little more cumbersome to move around. As soon as I get it in the swing, it honestly starts to feel at home. I feel very in control while it's in motion, but as soon as I try to stop and thrust, that's where the tip starts to feel a little clumsy for me. But in terms of throwing the tip out there, it doesn't feel bad. And honestly, as I try to control where I'm swinging, it also doesn't feel bad. It's a comfortable sword in the swing, which is kind of a weird thing for me. I don't know that I've experienced that before with a sword where in the swing it kind of feels, it feels controllable, but it's like I gotta be driving 100 miles an hour before I start feeling in control of the vehicle almost. It's an interesting sensation for sure. Anyway, dynamically it is what it is. It doesn't feel super controllable on the tip. It kind of wants to lean forward out of my hand, but it doesn't feel bad to stop or start moving. It's odd, and hopefully the weapon dynamics computer gives you some insight into why that might be, as I can only explain what I am sensing at the time, but the dynamics computer may be able to put that in more tangible terms for you to help you understand. And I will put a link in the description down below as well to the link to the weapon dynamics computer, so you can play with some of the values about how I'm holding it in case I'm doing it like a Dingle Fritz. Cutting wise, this is a sword that I brought out and did some cutting with while I was dicking around with a bunch of other swords. So I thought, well, why not? I haven't cut with it before. It would be helpful. I was doing the Albion Talhofer review that I posted some time ago, and in a nutshell, I wanted some baseline, some comparison. I was cutting with other katana that day, and I thought, well, you know, I should cut with another European style sword. If I'm going to cut with the Talhofer, I should probably have some contrast for another European sword, even though I don't have one. Even though this is not a Type 15, I think it's closer to a Type 12, but maybe I'm even off on that. The point is that it cut better than the Talhofer did. I found it to be more controllable in the cut, more cumbersome in the thrust, as I described in the dynamics, but it did move through targets actually pretty well. It was a very comfortable sword to move around when I was actually cutting and moving the sword through tatami, through bottles. It was a comfortable thing to do. Again, it could be sharper, of course. It could be profiled and have a keener edge on it, but I can't really dog on Valiant Armory for not having that, because this is really, really old and been used a lot by many people, and I can't speak for its history, but I can say that it's seen some use before it came to me. Now, it's not in bad shape, so that, I suppose, is a testament to some of the quality. It's held up well. It still does this, which I can't get over how fun that is. And the point is that it's done well and still cuts pretty good. Anyway, if you run into one of these VA longswords, they are a fun bit. I don't know exactly how well they compare to other bits on the market, but it is kind of an interesting kind of trek back in time when you were able to potentially buy a sword as cool as this for a couple $100. It seems like the market's changed a little bit. You're not necessarily able to do that anymore. I don't know if Valiant Armory even still sells a practical iteration for a couple $100, but in any case, if you happen to cross one of these, be surprised if it would sell for $200, because I don't think I'm gonna do that. So anyway, if you happen to find one, hopefully this review gives you some more information about said sword, so you are prepared to know what to expect and all of that type of stuff. That is all I have for you. I hope it's been mildly entertaining and or helpful, and as always, cheers and thank you for watching.